Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am doing my 3 favorite products from 3 favorite brands. So this video was inspired by Allison Chase, who was inspired by Grace from Everyday Edit. So I'll go ahead and link their videos and channels down below. So thank you so much for the idea. I thought this was going to be really fun, but I will say it was very hard to narrow it down to 3 products. I wanted to do 5, but I thought 5 favorite products from 3 favorite brands just didn't have the same ring to it. So these items that I'm talking about, these are like standout products in my collection. These are ones that rise above the rest in these categories that I am talking about. And they're just continual favorites. They're like perennial favorites from this brand. So to start out, I'm going to start with Claytopo Beauté. So one of my favorite products from Claytopo is the Radiant Corrector for Under Eyes. This is in the shade Almond. So before I discovered this concealer, I was raving about the Dior concealer. I loved that because you could use it under the eyes and on the face. And I just decided to try this out because I had picked up a few other Claytopo products and they really just stood out to me. Claytopo does beautiful complexion products, and I was really curious about this concealer. Now, this is definitely not a full coverage concealer. This is what I would say like a medium coverage. You can actually get like a lighter coverage out of it, but it does the most beautiful job at just brightening your under eyes. And the consistency of this product is so thin, which makes it beautiful for the under eye area because you're not gonna have product that gathers up on your under eye area. It's just gonna give you a really thin veil of coverage, but it will counteract some darkness under there. And it adds this beautiful brightening effect, but it's not too bright where you kind of get that like reverse raccoon eyes effect where it's just too bright on the under eyes. It just gives a very subtle brightening effect that just adds life back to your under eyes and makes you look really fresh and healthy without it being over the top with coverage. And I really like this as well because I don't need to set it down with powder. Now, as I've gotten older, I don't prefer to set my concealer with powder just because as I'm getting older, it doesn't look as nice to powder that area. It just looks a little bit heavy and kind of cakey if I ever do go in with powder. So I really prefer a concealer that can handle everyday wear and handle my life events without needing to powder that area. So I just have been really loving this. This has, again, a very subtle radiance to it. I can't detect any shimmer particles, but it just makes your eyes look really fresh and healthy. And I'm loving this so much. This is what I use on like an everyday basis, but I do reserve this for just the under eye areas. I wouldn't suggest this for facial concealing or anything like that, but this is just the most beautiful brightener. If you're looking for an everyday concealer that just stands above the rest and really outperforms some other concealers, I would highly suggest this one, and this is just one of my top favorite products from Claytopo. Next on the list will be, no surprise if you have been watching my channel for a while, this is the Claytopo Refining Pressed Powder. Now this is a translucent powder, so it does only come in this one shade. I'm about a light to medium skin tone with warm undertones, so I was afraid that this would be a little too transparent for me, but it's actually not. It goes on the skin completely transparent, like it doesn't add any color at all. It doesn't even add like a white cast to my foundation. But again, I do have like a light to medium skin tone, so I'm not sure how it would work on deeper skin. If you do have a deeper skin tone, please let me know how this works for you. But besides that, this adds just the most beautiful airbrushed effect to your skin. It really does what it says. It is called the Refining Pressed Powder because it absolutely refines any texture or pores on the skin. And it just makes everything look really soft focus, and it makes you look like you have a filter on your skin, but it doesn't add coverage to your skin at all, which I really like because once I go in with my foundation and everything, I want everything to look poreless and blurred at the end of my makeup application, especially when I add a powder, but I don't necessarily want to add coverage to my skin. So this does a great job of adding that filtered effect at the end of your makeup look, that really beautiful soft focus blurred effect without adding coverage, and it is just so beautiful. This is my go-to powder. It is incredibly refined, this powder. It is so finely milled, and I swear once you try this powder, you will never go back to anything else because I just love it so much. I basically never touched my Charlotte Tilbury powder, which I really loved before. And I just want to mention the Chantikai Blur Powder. I would say the blurring effect that you get from these is the same, but the Chantikai powder is going to add a little bit of pigment to your skin and a little bit of coverage. So this might be good if you have some more concerns with like discoloration or anything like that. And it's a little bit heavier. This is incredibly lightweight, and this just is a little bit heavier on the skin. You can detect this on the skin a little bit more than the Claytopo. This is absolutely undetectable on the skin. It just gives you a filtered effect. So That is another favorite from Claytopo. And then finally, this is another new item to my collection, but this is just the best blush I have ever tried. I'm having a hard time putting it down, and I feel like this is going to be another standout product in my makeup collection. Usually with some high-end blushes, I can alternate between them, and I'm always like, that's an amazing blush, but this is an outstanding, incredible blush that, again, it stands above the rest in my collection. I don't know what it is, but it's something about this formula. It is insanely finely milled. When you feel this, it feels like you are feeling a fabric. It is such an interesting formula. The texture of these is beautiful. You get a beautiful amount of pigment. So they are a little bit more pigment than some of maybe my other blushes. So there is a swatch of the two blushes together. We have the deeper terracotta shade here and the more kind of peachy shade here. And together they are just so incredibly beautiful. The texture of these, like I said, the consistency of it is so beautiful. They almost feel creamy and they really melt into the skin. It almost requires no effort to blend out. Sometimes with powder blushes, I find the need to go over, like at the end of my makeup application with like a buffing brush to just buff everything out, so there are like no harsh lines. But this just blends into the skin so very seamlessly. It just melts into the skin and it is beautiful. It is that type of blush that just makes your skin look better when you've applied it. So it really enhances your cheeks and just makes your cheeks look better. And I also love this because it's not completely matte, but it's not a shimmery blush. I don't really like shimmery blushes because they tend to accentuate texture, especially when you apply them to the front of your face. But matte blushes can also do that as well. So I like that kind of in-between where it just has a very soft, almost satin finish, but that I can't detect any shimmer particles. And that's exactly what this does. I can't detect any shimmer particles. And I love the combination of these two colors because if I want something really neutral, I can just go in with this shade here. But if I want a little bit of a pop of color, I can go in with this more peachy shade. I love to mix them together again because I get that perfect nude peachy tone that just looks so beautiful. This is just such a great formula, such a great blush. When you apply this, you will just realize how refined this powder is and how amazing it is to work with. Highly recommend this. And this is a refillable compact. So I haven't been able to get the case yet just because it wasn't available when I purchased this blush. So I will be getting that. And again, you can interchange them. You can buy new shades. I can't speak about the other shades, but this is the shade 105. And this is just the best blush I have ever tried. So this is definitely a favorite from Claytopo. The next brand I will be discussing is Cicely Paris. So this was another brand that was very challenging to just pick top 3 favorites. But again, I wanted to pick favorites that really kind of stood above the rest of my collection. So the first I have to mention is the Sisley Blur Expert Powder. Now this is a product I don't mention all the time or I don't use on a daily basis, but the way it makes my makeup look is just standout. It is such a beautiful powder. Now I know you're thinking you just talked about a powder for setting your makeup, but this is a powder you don't set your makeup with. Well, you can set your makeup with it, but my favorite purpose for this powder is actually using it as a primer, and Sisley does suggest that on their website. So what I do is I grab a more dense brush because this is a baked product. So you need a more dense brush to pick it up. So I'll use something like the Sonia G Master Face Brush. And then you just dip into this product and you use it before you apply any foundation or concealer. So I'll just use this after I've gone in with my skincare. And then you don't buff it into the skin. You kind of just pounce it into the skin like this. And you use that as your primer. So I don't apply this all over the face. I apply it in areas where I really want any area on my skin to be absolutely blurred and filtered. So that is on the front of my face here where I have some pores and texture. And then usually I'll take a bit on like my chin here, and then I'll just take the excess product just in the center of my face and on my nose. If I apply it to my nose, I don't find that I really need to go on top with foundation because this adds just a very slight amount of coverage. But using that as a primer, when you go over top of your foundation, everything just looks so completely smooth. If you have any texture on your skin, it will look so smoothed out. It is insane. I am always outstanding when I use that product. I always just think my face looks so good. It actually looks like you have added an Instagram filter onto your skin, but in real life, and it is just so beautiful. It also adds a bit more longevity to products. If I'm just wearing like a more sheer coverage foundation, I can get more longevity out of those sheer foundations by using this underneath. And just the way it makes your foundation look is incredible. So I definitely recommend that. If you're looking for something more so I would say for special occasions, because I just don't use this on an everyday basis because it's just not as time efficient as applying like a moisturizer to my face. So if you're looking for something for special occasions that makes your skin just look like wow and makes your skin look better, I would highly recommend this. This is actually a repurchase for me, so I've gone through one of those compacts and this is a backup. So I think buying a second one of these powders speaks for itself for how much I love this product. It is just truly amazing if you like that blurred effect. And because you are using a powder underneath the foundation, it is a little weird just to get used to doing that, and you would think that it might make everything look heavy or cakey, but it never does. Everything just looks so smooth and so poreless and blurred. So this is definitely a favorite from Sisley. And then next for Sisley, I have another concealer to mention. So this is the Sisley eye concealer with botanical extracts, and I picked mine in the shade number 2. So this is almost like a color correcting concealer. So when you put it onto your hand, it adds a very slight kind of peachy undertone. So it works really well as a subtle corrector on the skin. So my favorite thing about this is it has a bit more coverage than the Claytopo one I mentioned. So I would say this is like a medium, buildable to full coverage. And it just does such a great job of counteracting any darkness on your under eyes. But better than that, it just lays very smoothly on the under eyes. And for a fuller coverage concealer, this is incredibly easy to blend out, and everything just looks so smooth and so lovely on the under eyes. If you are someone that struggles with dark circles, I would highly recommend this. Another thing I love about this fuller coverage concealer is usually with fuller coverages, it might have the tendency to cake up on the under eyes or settle into fine lines or any crepiness that you have on your under eyes. But this doesn't at all. It just is really smoothing on the under eyes. And this also does not require powder over top, which is another thing that I really love. And this is a really long lasting concealer. If you are looking for something that will last you all day long on like your long work days, or if you just have a long day ahead of you, this is something you can count on and you can trust to get you through that full day, because it is incredibly long wearing and it never fades away throughout the day. It just remains that beautiful medium to fuller coverage all day long, but it doesn't look makeup-y. Even though it has that fuller coverage, it doesn't look like you have a ton of makeup on your under eyes, which I really enjoy as well, because I don't want people to look at me and think that I'm wearing a ton of makeup. So this just really evens out your under eyes and lays very smoothly and very beautifully without being heavy looking on the skin, which is something I really appreciate, and something that's fuller coverage but doesn't look makeup-y. It's just so beautiful. One of the best concealers that I have ever tried, and it is a standout product from Sisley. And last from Sisley, we have the bronzer. So this is the Sun Glow Bronzing Gel to Powder, and that is exactly what this is. This is a gel to powder formula, so it is a big gelée. Now mine looks crazy because I have gone through like half the compact, and I clearly need another one. I will buy another one of these because I love it so much, but because it's so expensive, I just wanted to use it all. But I think it is time to get another one finally. This now does come in a gold compact though. This is just the older release. Even though the formula is the exact same, it is not reformulated. This just has different packaging and now it is gold. But this bronzer is so beautiful. I did a little bit of a heavier swatch there. I don't know if you can see, but it is the most perfect warm tone bronzer. On me, it is not too orangey, it is not too warm toned at all. And another thing I love about this bronzer is that it has a very soft, gentle sheen to it. Now, when you apply it on the skin and even on my hand, I can't detect any shimmer particles, so you're not going to see that shimmer laying on your skin or sitting on top of your skin, because I don't prefer that. But this just gives a very subtle, healthy looking glow to your skin. And if you look at the actual skin texture, you're not going to have anything on your face that's completely matte. Your skin has this very subtle, like healthy glow to it, because that's how skin looks in real life. And this just offers this perfect glow to your skin without accentuating texture, without emphasizing pores or anything. It just sits on the skin beautifully. This blends into the skin like an absolute dream. What I love about these Baked Gelée products is how buildable they are. So if you want something very sheer and you just want a really light amount of that bronzed effect, you can just go in with a bit of this bronzer, but you can build it up quite a bit to get quite a healthy bronze look. You can build this up quite a bit and it will never actually look like powder sitting on top of your skin. It's never going to look like you are wearing too much bronzer on your skin, or it's never going to look heavy or anything. Because of this formula and this Baked Gelée texture, it really melts into the skin. So it has this effect when you apply it, it applies exactly like a powder would. So it has that ease of application that a powder would. You just go in with your normal powder bronzer, but it has this effect that after you've waited about 10 minutes on the skin, it just sort of starts softening and really melting into your skin. So it's really seamless. It's so lovely. This formula is just such a dream. It is my favorite bronzer, especially in the summertime because it is a bit warmer. It's just an incredible formula. It looks incredible every single time. I'm never disappointed in my makeup when I use this bronzer. It's just a bronzer I can count on. And if I'm never sure what to do with my makeup, I know that I can reach for that bronzer and I will love the outcome every single time. So this is just another standout product from Sisley. And then finally, the last brand I want to talk about is Chantecaille. Again, another challenging brand to just pick 3 products, but I just decided to use the 3 that I use the most often. So the first on my list is the Chantikai Ultra Smoothing Primer. In the US, I believe this has a different name. I think it's called like the Sunscreen Primer, something to that effect, Ultra Smoothing Sunscreen, SPF 45, something like that. But in Canada, we can't have labels for SPF. We can't actually label that a product has SPF on it. So it is not called that in Canada, but this is just my favorite primer for, again, adding that really smooth effect to your skin. It is different than the Sisley because, again, this is a powder, but it does a really great job of just blurring everything on the skin as well. And it's so smoothing on the skin. And it's such an interesting formula because it is quite liquidy when you apply it. And it's just a clear liquid. So it's not going to add any coverage or any color to the skin. And it's just such a thin texture that it blends with ease. And it is quite liquidy though, so you do need to work quickly with this product. But when you apply it to your skin and you look at your skin without having any foundation on it, you will just notice how absolutely smooth your skin looks. It looks so smoothed out. So if you're someone that does not like to wear foundation again, this would be a great product just to use on its own because of that beautiful smoothing effect. I really like to use this in combination with something like the Chanel Water Fresh Tint because this will just smooth everything on the skin, and then the Water Fresh Tint will just add a tiny, tiny bit of coverage over top. So that makes a great combination for like an everyday wear. But if you're looking for the most smoothing primer that just makes your skin look absolutely porcelain smooth, this is the way to go. I am always impressed by this. And this formula is just beautiful as well because while it does add a little bit of hydration to your skin, it's not too hydrating. It has a beautiful dry down where product just sits over top really lovely. So if you want that really smooth foundation look, this is a great product to use. It is beautiful if you want to smooth out texture or anything on the skin as well. And I love the dry down on this because, again, it doesn't feel greasy on the skin. It really just grips your foundation over top. Now, again, if I'm going back to the Sisley primer, this is the primer that I use for every day. And then this is the primer that I use for special occasions. So I love having both of these in my collection. They are both worth having in my collection instead of just having one or the other. This for every day and this for special occasions. So this is just an absolute must-have for me from Chantecaille. Another favorite from Chantikai, and again, this is a product that I have actually repurchased, so I have gone through one of these completely. This is the Shantikai Luminescent Eye shade. My favorite shade is the shade Lion, just because it's a beautiful neutral bronze shade, and that's just something that I love to wear on an everyday basis. So what I love about this is that it offers beautiful pigmentation. It just gives your eyes that beautiful sheen and sparkle that adds that really beautiful glossy effect, especially if you use these shades wet. So these can be used wet or dry. If you use them dry, you're gonna get not as much opacity and you're gonna get a little bit more of that glitter shimmer effect. While there are no glitter chunks, this is a very sophisticated shimmer. It's a very refined shimmer, but it does have some sporadic shimmer particles, but it's not overwhelming. It just makes your eyes look like they are glowing and beautiful and lovely. So again, if you use it dry, you get that really lovely kind of sporadic shimmer. But if you use these shades wet, you get more opacity and then the shimmer is more continuous. So it just kind of evens out that shimmer particle a little bit, but you get more intensity and color payoff with using it wet. And they're just so beautiful. I love to use these as a one and done. I love to use these over top of some other eyeshadows just to really kind of glam up my look, especially if I have plans in the evening. This is just a go-to shadow that looks beautiful every single time. The formula of this is amazing. I love this color. Again, I can use it on its own and I can use it in combination with others. If I just want something that is easy, I just apply this and I am done with my eye look and I'm happy every single time. But then I also want to mention, if you're someone who just doesn't really like any shimmer and you really don't like that at all, these are the Mermaid Eye Colors, and my favorite shades are the shade Copper, and then Sylvie is another one. And these are just beautiful. These are like a cream to powder formula. So they feel really nice when you dip into them. They have that kind of lovely creamy consistency, but they go on like a powder. So you can see this gives you a bit more of that glow, and it's very refined. It's a very continuous shimmer. It gives you more of that sheen effect and isn't as pigmented as the luminescent eye shades. But these are just my go-to kind of one and done shadows. I love to use the Mermaid Eye Colors for like on an everyday basis, like going to work and stuff like that. And then these I just love to use for a special occasion. So I wanted to shout out both of these just because I use them for 2 different occasions. But I would highly suggest either one of these. They're absolutely stunning. They are go-tos in my collection. I use them weekly, and for how much makeup I have, I think that is saying a lot. So I just love that. And last on my list for Chantikai is the Future Skin Cushion Foundation. I wear mine in the shade Nude. This is just such a beautiful foundation. This is definitely my favorite foundation from Chantecaille. Even though I love their other ones, they just do complexion products beautifully and they just do them right. But this formula is just, it's a standout for me because of how thin this foundation is. So when you apply it, it goes on in such a thin layer, but it's incredibly buildable as well. So you're never gonna look like you are wearing a ton of foundation with this product, again, because it is just such a thin layer of product while being buildable. And it's also great at really blurring the skin. So when you apply this, it adds that really beautiful filtered effect that I love for my foundations to have. And this is just a great everyday foundation because you can get a lighter coverage foundation, but it is buildable to about a medium coverage. I wouldn't say it's buildable to full coverage, but you can build it up to medium, and it never looks heavy on the skin. It just sits on the skin beautifully. And this is incredibly long lasting for a cushion. This also works all throughout the year. So in the winter, I can use this. I just make sure to use a more hydrating primer in the winter. And again, it has fantastic longevity. It will last me my full workday, and I never have to worry about it fading or creasing or anything like that. It just sits on the skin beautifully, especially if you have any texture. This just smooths over texture beautifully as well. And then I can also use this in the summertime when it's a little more humid out. And again, because the texture is so thin on this, it's never going to kind of crease up in any areas throughout the day. It just works great in the summer as well. I'm so impressed when I use this in the summer for its longevity aspect because it never gets too hot where I just look like I'm sweaty and my foundation's fading away or it's getting too greasy or anything. This just remains beautifully consistent and gives a very beautiful kind of a velvet finish. It really looks like natural looking skin because it's not too glowy and it's not too matte. It's that perfect in between. So if you're looking for something with a medium coverage that really adds that blurred soft focus effect and has great longevity, definitely give this Chantikai cushion a try. It is amazing. That is it for my 3 favorite products from 3 favorite brands. So thank you again to Allison Chase and Grace from Everyday Edit for this video idea. Again, I will link their channels down below. I definitely will be doing this with a few other brands because I really wanted to talk about some other brands, but I couldn't fit it into this video. So let me know if you like this style of video. I will definitely do more of that. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you in my next video.